All right, we're back in session, and I just wanted to make a statement that we had a little bit of technical difficulties after our executive session, and we came back and no action was taken, and then we broke for lunch. So we're back in session now, and Mr. Trump, Mr. Dean,
All righty.
you ready?
Yep. Got Brett in here to basically see our best advised board where he's at on developing and designing the plans for the courthouse security building. And I sent those, I guess, the latest set of plans in for you guys to look at. And I guess what sheet is this, Brett?
This is A2.
A2. On sheet A2, it kind of shows how the traffic flow is going to go through the proposed new building to the west side of the courthouse. For people coming into the building would go to the left and then proceed down a hallway to the north, then around the corner. And there, when they round the corner, there's going to be an X-ray machine and a metal detector. And if somebody comes in the building and say they have a cell phone on them or a pocket knife, they'll be asked to leave. And that's that doorway to the, straight up to the north end, doorway B. They'll be asked to leave, exit out of that door there to go back around to go to their car or home or wherever to return that item that they're not allowed in with, and they're gonna have to re-enter the building the way they came in to begin with. Then once they proceed through the security area, you can kind of see they'll go through doorway D and then proceed east into the main building of the courthouse. Feel free to pipe in.
Exactly what he is saying. Once you get past doorway D, you're accessible to the building. There is another, just down below that, there's a door as far as exiting out as well. So we'll have locking mechanisms so you can't get back into D, and C would be your egress area. So we're trying to minimize the pedestrians as they come into the building. They will go left and around, loop around, and exiting the building, they come from the right. So we're not crossing over pedestrian traffic. And that's the one thing we don't want to do. The other, if you notice the walls that are in there, the interiors, those are glass. So they're visible. So that way, anybody, security and pedestrians, you can see both sides of the wall. So you can see what's going on. It's just not, we didn't want blind corners. And so kept that as open as we could. Coming into the building now, as everybody knows, that's, it doesn't, it's not code compliant with the height of that door. So we still, even though we are adding this in here, we're still doing some work to that. And that's to raise the height of that lintel in there. We have worked with the historical and have some verbal approval from them to do this, as well as the attachment of this building. We're minimizing the historical attachment and disruption of the courthouse. So we pretty much had a verbal green light to go ahead on with moving this. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask what it's gonna look like outside. Is it gonna be stone like the courthouse too?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
It does have a stone veneer.
Mhm.
We are taking elements of the courthouse, bringing it into this building. So we have a
Continuity.
large one, small one here, a little bit of balance in there. I don't know if you've seen. If we look real quick on, if you look at A3.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the way it's designed. I just didn't know what the outside was gonna be.
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
So it takes into consideration that, and if you notice, there is some height to this, and some of it has to do with the proportions of the building, and it also has to do with that secondary exit from the first floor. As you come out, we didn't want to, so if you're looking at that elevation, it's called south elevation here, you have stairs that's to the right of it, and with the landing, the exterior landing. And with that, we needed to make sure that we had the height of this building up, so you're not staring at the roof and we don't have people trying to jump up there. as well. So, and then also we are taking care of that landing, which is in dire need of repair, so we don't have leaks coming in. So we're looking at resurfacing, prepping and resurfacing the exterior as well as the interior. So that's also on the agenda with these drawings. I think the main thing, when you go back to the floor plan with the functionality of this building, is the openness of it and the progression that they take to get into it. And that also has to go with the exterior and that introduction of that little plaza out front, which they're going to want to space out there. Let's create some space for them that minimize, we're not talking putting terrazzo or anything like that on the ground. We're looking at concrete, but creating a nice plaza, nice entryway for them, and they can a gathering before they go into the building as well. Also, coming in from the same general area where it is now. Now it's kind of a funnel with that little walkway system in there. We would open it up a little bit. However, we are proposing bollards in there, removable bollards, so that way vehicles won't come in. We can stage them off for security, but we also have it for maintenance. Maintenance was a big thing, so you can get in onto the lawn and mow and do some things as we're grading this out and per the proper slope, so get in. So. And the other thing is security all the way around this building is what we're looking at. And that comes into play with the landscaping as well. Getting rid of some of the shrubs, low vegetation in there so people can't hide.
Corey, you can talk for you guys, it's got to know that. And that.
Yes, yeah, because currently the only way to get a mower on the south lawn is to put wooden planks on the steps and get the mowers up there. And even if we have to dig up a sewer line or a water line up front, we can't get a piece of equipment up there. So there's no way to access
But
it.
this will change all
Yes.
that, yeah.
When is this supposed to start? What's this start date?
He's still preparing the plans, so he's getting closer to sending it out to bid. But he's gonna basically list everything in the bid packet to where there's line items, so we can kind of, I don't want to say pick and choose what we want to go with, but
So will water and sewer be ripped out of this? Or we're not planning to touch that?
in this new addition,
Yeah.
the only water that would be in it would be overhead sprinkler, right?
Yes, yes.
So there's no restrooms in this new addition. There's nothing.
The reason I was asking is because the ARP funds, like that, it covers water and sewer, so.
Okay, now, as far as, I don't have civil on me, we were looking at the civil in there and designing around any utilities and so forth in there. However, this is old. There's gonna be ghosts. We don't know what they are.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah, you're gonna have a
that
few.
break
We know.
earlier and-
We know there's some lines around.
Yeah.
We don't know the exact and whether we can find them or not.
Sure. So when do you think we can, because, I expressed to you before the meeting about the cost of construction and
I think, sounds long and it's not long, but we could prep in these, have them ready in a month. And with that, because I want to be able to make sure, working closely here with our line items. What do we want? And as far as our line items, so you have some options in there. And that way, working with the, engineers, finish up in accordance with that. And then once you do that, you've got a couple weeks of bid process. Advertisement to bid, that would take, I'd give it 3 weeks. Because there's an extension always in there, so estimate 3 weeks. And then you go from there. Then we'll have an opportunity to review the bids from there. So you're looking at 2 months. 2 months to get the bid backs.
Probably, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's reasonable.
So when you
You will bring the bids in for opening on the budget, right, for the bids.
Yeah,
Would be the same way.
they'd be opened here on a selected day.
Looks good.
It's neat. I think it's neat. Nice little project.
It is needed.
Yes. So, and take care of some of the other issues that need to, especially those stairways are in dire need of attention. Any questions?
What about the fire escapes? That was kind of,
Yeah,
originally that was figured into the overall cost.
well, you had Randy with Cobb Valley look at the structural of those and structurally they're fine. They're okay.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna be, sandblasted and painted.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do,
Reuse it.
try and do the best job we can, get them to sandblast it, paint it, proper prepping and, undercoats and so forth. So, yeah, preventive. Yeah, otherwise structurally they were sound.
So.
The cost prohibitive, take them away, put something else.
So, I know at one point we talked about, while this is being built, the entrance to the south doors,
Mhm.
have we rectified that?
We haven't rectified it with any lifts or anything at this point. As far as services and bells has been discussed and how somebody comes in. Can we do a bells? Can we do something so we can go out and provide that service versus the maximum of bringing them in that back door? There's not a whole lot of options in that situation, so. And, yeah, it's just not. We'll try and work with the contractor, minimize as much as we can.
Yeah, and we'd have to coordinate through Nikki Davenport. So, if we can't find a viable option for ADA access, the only other option I could see would be have security take them around back and escort them through the north employee ADA entrance and then get them inside in the public area and turn them loose. So, that'd be about the only way I could see them getting access.
Yeah, because the most difficult thing on this whole situation is temporary. Yes, can we get them ramped up on the exterior? Then you got sets of stairs on the interior as well on that main floor. It just makes it
Very difficult.
very difficult to do without assistance.
Right.
Anything else that you guys have?
I don't think so. Thank you.
It's exciting. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for me.
I'll look now.
Appreciate it.
These are.
No, we haven't moved that through yet. Yeah, I guess after you get the changes made on those, I'll holler at me. Come over with my red pen.
I enjoy it. You're great set of eyes. We all need those. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, with that, just to advise the board, the Pinella office building, HVAC duct cleaning, Rainbow completed that Saturday, May 22nd. Finally. Took multiple times getting them in there to get the ductwork cleaned. But I'm still waiting on Rainbow, confirmation on Rainbow when they're gonna start on the courthouse ductwork, so. But when we get dates lined out for the courthouse, I'll be sure to let the commission know. Next item I'm going to discuss would be the KDOT Traffic Engineering Assistance Program, the TEEP study that I had done for several county roads. Basically speed limit studies. It should have been in the packet with the actual completed study. And there's a lot of fluff in this study, but basically on page 33 shows the preferred signing for all the different zones, 1 through 5. Zone 1 is Old Highway 40, and that, to me, that was the most critical one out of all 5 of these, was because it's unposted, so it's 55 miles an hour with a curve sign for the west or the eastbound traffic coming into town, with a 25 mile an hour speed auxiliary plate underneath of it, but they recommended the preferred improvements anyways, basically to post that 40 miles an hour and upgrade the existing chevrons, upgrade turn warning signs and advisory speed limit plaques, and remove the deer crossing signs. So, zone 2, and if you guys have any questions as I'm going down through these, please holler at me. Zone 2 would be Milford Lake Road near I-70. Currently posted, it's not posted, so it's 55 miles an hour for vehicles going over top of the overpass, I-70 overpass, and they're recommending install the posted speed limit signs 45 mile an hour for each approach. Zone number 3 would be Milford Lake Road near Liberty Hall Road. Their recommendation is to remove the posted 40 mile an hour speed limit signs and speed limit ahead signs and basically revert it back to a 55 mile an hour speed limit. And then zone 4, the Old Milford Road, near US 77. That one there, basically for a short stretch, change the posted speed limit from 30 to 35, so increase it 5 miles an hour. And that's basically east of the first residence or over there by the golf course. From there east would be increased up to 35 miles an hour from 30. And then zone 5 would be Hillside Drive. They recommended to install posted at 35 mile an hour for southbound and northbound Hillside Drive traffic and install a winding road ahead sign, the W15R.
What is it posted now?
It's not, it's not, if anything is not posted, it's 55 mile an hour, but they still have to drive at a reasonable prudent speed. So we've had a resident out there complain about people speeding and.
He'd like it to 25, but I told him they recommended 35.
Yeah.
He said he's worried about like the UPS trucks and that, how many houses?
No, say 8 or 9, something like that. But those were the recommendations for these 5 different zones that I submitted the application for. And then back on page. I can get to it. See. I won't say page 5, but it's after page 4. Do you guys have the basically spreadsheets in there showing how much the signs are anticipating being, the cost of all the signs?
I saw it in your first email. I know it's towards the back.
Yeah, they've got it broke down for the cost of all these signs that are supposed to be installed, and for their estimated cost was $13,107. And when I seen that, I'm like, that is way high.
Yeah.
So Marshall went out and got 3 different quotes on all of the signs, and which include the posts. And Newman came in at $3,493.45. And then National Sign Company came in at $4,980.20. And then Barco Municipal Products, they came in at $5,082.40. But we have all of these signs in stock. We'll probably just have to order a few posts. So as far as out of my budget to pay for all these signs, we've already got them in stock, and Marshall feels we've got an adequate supply, so we don't have to reorder any at this time. So I would recommend to the board to approve of this traffic engineering assistance speed limit studies for all 5 zones, and for me to get the signs changed or installed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. That was harder than I thought it would be to change a speed limit.
Well, it's, you know, and without I guess, thank you, KDOT, for,
Yes, thank you.
for doing this for,
sure.
on their dime. So that's, to me, that's a very good, program that they have.
Yes.
Which I have submitted another application for 2 other speed limit studies one on River Road and the other one for Lions Creek West. There's been some, I don't say complaints, but some concerns that people, like on Lions Creek West from 77, that first mile, there's quite a few residences in there, and there's some concern out there about people going a little bit too fast for, you know, it's 55, but they want it looked at, so I'm like, it don't hurt nothing to turn in an application, so I did, so. And with the new construction at the high school, there's some concerns out there on Ritter Road that, you know, the speed limit now is posted 45. At least have an engineer look at it and get their assessment on what the speed limit should be, if it needs to be changed, lowered. And I did submit those applications to KDOT on May 21st, so waiting on them, so. And I know it all depends on their funding for that program, when it, or if it gets selected, so. But I'll keep the board in the loop on my progress there. Next item, be the Cloud County Community College parking lot island seal bids. I again sent out bid packets to local contractors, and the sealed bids, we opened up here at my regular meeting on June 21st at 1:15. And so far, it's not looking good. There's a mandatory pre-bid meeting that they have to attend, and I haven't heard of anybody that's reached out to me or Dale, to go out there and I've had one contractor call and they're just too busy, so they're not gonna bid it. So still, and we've called them and asked them, hey, just to remind you, the deadline's coming up, but I hope we get some competitive bids in for it, but it's not looking too good. Next item, discuss the, Lions Creek East Bridge replacement project. We got a couple change orders. Had some additional dirt work to do, back, behind the abutments. Because the original abutments, you remember here at my last meeting said that they had, the abutments were a lot larger than what was anticipated. Well, with those larger abutments, there's a little void there, so there's additional calculations and quantities of dirt, fill dirt that wasn't calculated in for the contractor. So they do these change orders. So we made a deal with them to where we'll supply the dirt, we'll haul you the dirt, and that'll help drop that cost of that change order considerably. But their first change order, the cost for that fill dirt was $2,677.50. And if we didn't supply that dirt, we were probably looking anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000. So we was able to save quite a bit of money there for getting them some good fill dirt that passed Caw Valley's inspections on their testing. So it tested very high in compaction. So they were, in which that has been done already. And then the second change order would be for the piling. Basically, the short explanation is the steel pile must be driven into computed design bearing depths, and basically the pile had to been driven down further in order to get into the good bedrock. So, you know, what they did the geotech investigation as far as core drilling to see what was down there. But upon finding, they needed to add more piles. So we have another change order for the cost of additional piling. And that cost was $3,504. But I'd recommend to approve both change orders.
I move that we change order. Both change. No.
Order number 1 and number 2.
Yeah, change order number 1, change order number 2.
Second.
All in favor?
I
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
was literally looking for the numbers, Teresa. You'd be proud of me. Yeah, but they're the same.
Yeah, I mean,
And I guess in the future, here coming up for too long, I'm gonna have change order number 3, which is riprap. When, again, it's kind of like a domino effect. The size of those abutments is gonna affect this, it's gonna affect that. So the riprap that's gonna be placed in front of and down underneath the abutment and on the wings, that's gonna change a little bit, so we're gonna have additional riprap. But we are supplying the riprap from the riprap that we're getting from Fort Riley. We're gonna be supplying some of that riprap for that. So the cost of materials is not gonna be there. It's just the cost of the labor for the contractor to get everything put in. And I'm anticipating it probably being about the same cost as change order number 1 with the dirt. So, again, with us supplying the materials, it just drops that cost tremendously. So, and it's not just the materials, but big share of it's the trucking and the hauling, getting the materials on site. So just a heads up on change order number 3.
Thank you for cognizant of taxpayer.
Always. Recycling facility. I don't know if anybody's heard this yet, but we sent out a public notice last week, but since you two are new and wasn't here for the fun COVID stuff, I got this little deal that I typed up. Basically, it's a narrative on how we got to where we were and how we got back. So, but due to the COVID pandemic, Fort Riley closed the recycling facility on March 16th, 2020. Gary County in turn had to close our facility to the public on March 16th because we had nowhere to go with it. On May 18th, Fort Riley opened their facility back up with restrictions that we must quarantine all of the recyclables for 7 days. And the only way we could feasibly do that is just have our operation open from Monday through Wednesday and be closed Thursday, Friday, and do not have a recycling trailer out at the transfer station. But last week, I emailed Herb Abel with Fort Riley, and in talking to him, to where all their employees, from what he told me, they've been vaccinated. So he felt that we don't have to quarantine our recyclables anymore. So that's why, starting today, we open back up to normal operational hours for recycling.
Nice.
So it's Monday through Friday. And then we'll also have the recycling trailer out at the transfer station like we did prior to COVID, so. And I got one more thing, and I guess this is just for Commissioner Tyson and Commissioner Giordano, that would like to get your approval to approach,
No, I mean, we already, it's just a signing. I don't think you.
just to approach Kevin and Betty to get the temporary construction easement and the permanent drainage easement and the agreements signed by them.
Okay. Oh, I've reviewed them and that was what we all agreed on. And so, yeah, I'm good.
In order to expedite this, I think it's necessary, and I've also talked with the gentleman from Federal Highway. In order to get this expedited, I've got to have all this done, the easements paid for, and everything filed to KDOT by July 1. So, and I've got a vacation coming up in this month, and I want to get this stuff done before I go on vacation. So I'm going to try to expedite this as fast as I can to get everybody who's listed on the trust to sign these easements. So I might have to ask Rebecca if I can steal Tiffany, a notary, and physically go out, track them down. Here you go, review it, sign it, notarize it, so that way I can hopefully have this back by the end of the week. I've already got Mr. Rozier's done. It's already at my office for the next step, which would be commission
Is
approval.
Rebecca out for the week or?
Just today, but we discussed this. We know that it's.
It shouldn't take too long.
Wouldn't think so. Just need to call and coordinate.
How
and
many
try.
people do you have to go to?
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work on that.
And it's not over yet.
no, it's not.
Mhm.
Can't wait till we have a ribbon ceremony, cutting it, letting everybody have it. That's all I had.
All right. Thanks. I did get your message about, Munson Road
Yeah.
too, about them looking into.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out tonight.
And is everybody all right from the accident still?
Yes.
Are they sore? I checked on Dale.
He was a little bit
Yeah.
sore, but I just wanted to see him climb out the top of the passenger side of that truck. But with that, Jeremy, took the pitman arm off that truck. And you could see where, and it had a castle nut on it. And a castle nut has grooves in the top side of the nut where a cotter pin goes in and locks it in. When I was on scene, looking up in there, it was dark, I really
Yeah.
couldn't see it, and I felt the threads, but you really couldn't see what was going on. And on the idler arm, I believe that's on there with a lock nut. So I just assumed it was a lock nut. That's why I stated that. Well, in looking at the pitman arm, it showed where that nut may have been loose, where the threads were just give away. And then all of a sudden, by looking at the cotter pin, and I'm an old front end man from years ago, when the cotter pin didn't come out, you just buzzed it off. The direction that cotter pin was shaved off was down on both sides. So that's telling me that that jar that hitting that bridge, coming off that bridge, when he hit that, it caused that nut to shoot off, shear that cotter pin, because the cotter pin is sheared down. So that's telling me the nut was strained down and sheared that pin off, and then they lost steering.
I'm glad that.
But on the flip side, Jeremy came in the office first thing this morning. He said, on a real quick assessment, we might be looking at $500 to $600 to get the truck fixed.
Oh.
So it barely did any damage to the driver's side whatsoever, and it didn't even break the mirror.
Wow.
So, now granted, the driver's side window was busted because they had to stand on it to get out.
Oh, yeah.
But all in all, it sounds like we might not even put a claim into K-Camp, so we'll just have to wait and see. He's supposed to give me up to date. When I was coming up here from a meeting, it was in there running, so. So we might have got really lucky on that one,
Yeah. Yeah,
but very fortunate everybody's okay. That's the main
yes,
thing.
my goodness.
That's why they emailed, I was like, oh.
Thank you, Cory.
Yep, appreciate it.
Alrighty. I think I'm staring at my first victim. I'm staring at my first victim.
The signage?
Yep.
Get him while it's hot.
Get him while it's hot.
You really want to do it now?
I'll give them to you so you can review,
Okay.
so you can read it.
This is me, Keith.
Nope.
What you
that's a
doing?
good one.
What's up?
So
How y'all
don't
doing?
lose it.
Good, how are you?
Busy, busy.
Yeah.
You on this right now?
Yep. Okay. Hey, Mr. Walker, how are you?
Great, great. Can you take a
Yeah.
couple minute break? I just need to visit with you.
With me? Sure.
I'll write this down.
Like black sheep. I need these.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, nobody engineers.
Yeah.
So, maybe, this way,
You see that?
or they deal with people with disabilities. And.
My reading glasses, these are all scratched up, it's like.
Oh, yeah, it's like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, and did you have to talk to the supervisor?
Bring her in there.
Whoever runs this.
I don't know if she's at lunch or not.
Bring her out to the house and then Nina and I both sign something that's explain to her.
Yeah.
Where did anybody hear like that?
Well, Adult Protective Services is in there, and her name is Alicia Contreras.
I'll find out.
And she said, just, yeah.
Yeah, is it supposed to be your work today, so.
Yeah.
Get her ready. Great. Thanks, Keith. You know the, Teresa, one of the talks about, there's a sound, Pike County Island State. It's called, the late country. Deer on the motorcycle coming back from high center. He's no helmet, 11:30 Deer Square, and of course he went down. And he had 7 broken ribs. Of course, he's very good, pretty good.
So when you do that, you ride a bike, you just fly off the bike or?
Once like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the broken, yeah, he had several of them. I think it was
I just don't think so. I don't think he'll make that.
He's looking.
Yeah. What happened to Dale?
He was a passenger.
Yeah, you're right.
No, it was, that one-ton doobie that we had.
Oh, yeah.
The one that we normally have running around. It's just a little bit.
And they called.
And the
I just put it up on YouTube and then people can,
Yeah, and when did you send it today?
No, it was.
Oh, okay.
Just some information they asked me, what the priority.
Oh, okay. She probably sent that to you now.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Can I ship them today?
He is, he was doing some paperwork in the back.
All right. I'll put it on his computer. Find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, it's fine.
How you doing?
Good self?
So
Good. Had a eventful weekend.
this is.
Oh,
the-
good eventful or bad?
So we had baseball
What loans.
and
grants,
we're in Lincoln,
spent,
Nebraska. It was, got there Friday, played Saturday.
Making it simple.
Yes.
Sunday is like,
I'm pretty
everything
sure I
that
understood.
go wrong went wrong.
We sent it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Time.
Had my kid,
No, I know.
he
I
fell.
told you to
He split his kidney, had to get a
I know. You try to play nice.
We had family and stuff show up, so we're trying to, try to get him to urgent care and ripping and running, got him taken care of, made it to the game. Watched the games play out, and we're driving home, and our friends caught a flat tire 10 minutes ahead of them, in between, I would say, about 6 miles, 6 miles, if that, away from the Riley exit. And so we caught up to them, and I got out, pulled all their stuff out the back, because they were on the baseball team with us. Got the kids to a different vehicle and started changing the tire. And got home around 11:04 last night, so.
Oh, you're tired.
I got some, I ain't cranky. Good.
Yeah.
Thrown in there.
So how many stitches did he end up with?
4.
Did he just slip and hit the edge or something?
Yeah. He's tough though.
All right, yep.
Just keep walking back.
Oh, wait, was Tiffany just?
Yeah, just on Tiffany.
So how old is he?
He's 7.
Thank you, little guy. I'm like his dad.
You don't get it from me.
I can hear him coming down the hall.
Yep, I can hear him.
A lot of upsets and Sunday.
Gentlemen,
How's it going?
Hello, how are you, sir?
All right. Ready anytime.
So, let's see. So let's just start with the most recent news and then I'll let Wade go through the paperwork. Is that fair enough? So you guys heard about the generator, I'm sure. We had the generator fail when we tested it, so in essence, to be safe, we can't be without a backup generator. You can't do surgery. There's just the routine stuff. Suction doesn't work without electricity, so a lot of patients need that sort of thing. So we opted to, at the time we had the information, we had no backup generator available at the time, so we transferred some patients out, kept the ER open, because you don't want to ever close your ER. And you work around whatever you have to, because the emergencies could be dangerous. So we transferred them out, and right after we made that decision, we heard there was a generator in Wichita that we're able to get. And then it's like, okay, we need to find a truck driver and somebody to wire it. So we're looking at a day to 2 days for all that to happen. Well, they made it happen overnight. Truck driver went, picked up middle of the night, dropped it off. The electricians came during the night and hooked it up for us. So we got back to business the next morning. But we still have a generator issue. So the problem with this one, it's a Mitsubishi, it's made in Japan, and it was outdated, so they don't make the parts anymore. So they don't have any parts in Japan. They don't have any around here. So we either have to rebuild this, find someone that can build a starter for these, or buy a new one. Jeff reached out to a couple of places. One place came back with a new generator, basically like a Caterpillar type diesel generator, is like $500,000. One of our board members asked about, what about natural gas? Well, those are like 4 or 5 times that cost. So I don't think that's an option. But we still have the backup generator that we're leasing for $20,000 a month. So
Why
that's,
did they go, why didn't they go with Caterpillar before?
when they bought it, oh, I don't know, it was
It's
before
like
Frank.
early 2000s.
Yeah, I call it BF, before Frank. So I don't know what, sometimes you look at the cheapest thing you get, or,
Yeah, what do you pay for?
yeah, you do, so. Anyway, so that's the generator issue, so we're working through that. The backup's working, we tested it. The fire marshal came, 'cause someone complained that, hey, these guys had a generator issue, go check it out. So he came and he basically looked at everything and said, you guys followed your procedure and you did the right thing, complimented us for taking action for patient safety.
Did a great job.
I'm glad it didn't take so long, because we're thinking it's gonna be 2 days at the best at that point, and it ended up being about 24 hours.
No, I appreciate.
Yeah.
Proactive.
So, and to the fire marshal blessed us, we had some paperwork to send them back. So that, I think, it's just an ongoing issue. The other issue we're working through, and Wade mentioned this at the last board meeting, but I don't think anybody understood what the ramifications are. He talked about pass-through payments. We basically are a demonstration project hospital for inpatient Medicare and swing beds. We get cost-based reimbursement. So you guys heard that before, right? We talked about that. So the way they do that, the operational piece of that is Medicare pays us so much money a month. Like every 2 weeks, we get a check from Medicare, and it's for this cost-based reimbursement. At the end of the year, they evaluate it, do an audit and say, okay, we didn't pay you enough, we owe you, or we paid you too much, you need to pay us. And there's a settle up or true up after the year. And those true ups usually drag on for 2 more audits to be sure, and then it finally finishes. Like we just finished 18 and 21. So it's usually about 3 years. So what has happened is the demonstration project was renewed by Congress and the president signed it. Well, somehow our payments were turned off. And it's about 200,000 a month, 180 to $200,000 a month. It's about $2 million a year. So we have reached out to the 2 senators, Marshall and Moran. We've reached out to WPS, who's our MAC administrator, Medicare administrator, who gave us a contact with CMS, and CMS has to turn it back on. So we've alerted everyone that we need this turned back on, because it was approved to go another 5 years through 26. So we are waiting for that. We even reached out to KHA. They have a person who's a liaison with CMS. So we've reached out to everybody and said, this is the situation. So we've been working on that for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, of trying to get that resolved. But, if you take away $200,000 a month, that's huge for us who have barely, paycheck to paycheck kind of survive. It just started,
May 26th.
yeah, May 26th. So it just happened.
You
So we-
didn't get any warning.
No, we think there may be a glitch when they renewed it, and so we're trying to figure it out. I reached out to other hospitals who were in the demonstration project, which is about 30 in the country, maybe a little less. But the ones I've reached out to, they didn't have any issues. So we're trying to figure out why it stopped and get it turned back on. So if you know any of the senators, representatives that are in Congress has to reach out to CMS. So we've reached out to them, and I hadn't heard back today in June. So that's what we've been working through. And the holiday last week made it a short week for them. They finally got to us on like Thursday or Friday.
What'd you say CMS stands for?
Medicare Services, Center for Medicare Services. It's basically all of Medicare is controlled by CMS. under DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services, at the, the national level. So those are the hot points we've been working on. Meanwhile, we had a year end, so there was a lot of catch up, and Wade will go through the financials. We had a lot of catch up to do, and invoices need to be paid. We ended up about $1 million better this year than last year. We generated more revenue than we did last year. So in the time of COVID, and although we had decreases in clinic volume and ER, remember I shared with you guys the volumes and how they were down. Even with that, we still made more money than we did last year. So the way I look at it, we were so bad and so lean. The only place to go was up. So we generated more revenue than the losses we had from that volume. So I think that's a good thing. Part of that's the ICU, take care of COVID patients, that payment's a little higher. So that's kind of.
The wound clinic still.
The wound clinic started, that's generating revenue, 340B, but those things didn't get started till really the wound clinic may have had like a month, the last quarter of that. 340B had like the last quarter of some preliminary fund, but those things are starting to look really good now. Any questions from me or any of that stuff? All that Wade.
Trying to think of who they could reach out to.
Yeah, I did send the information about our equipment needs as well as physical needs for the plant that we've given it to you a number of times, but it's updated. I sent it to, was it Deborah? Rebecca.
Yeah, no, we've
So
gotten that.
You got that? Okay, just make sure.
Yeah, and then, thank you for,
Yeah, so Wade will go through these.
this is all, this is all in the packet that he gives us, but he made it easier for you to understand.
So I've got the stapled packet, and the first page on that is the patient volumes and utilization statistics. And since we are at a year end, I'm just really going to focus on the current versus the prior and not really worry about the budget at this point. So we're really looking at 2 different years. The other part of this is not so much in the volumes. When we get to the financial information, it's still preliminary because we have our audit coming up at the end of the month, and there will be some adjustments that will be presented with the audit that will most likely improve it. So the highlighted areas, you can see the acute admissions are on the top line there, and if you compare that to prior year, it was up a little bit. So we did acute admissions are going to be those in the medical surgery as well, our medical surgical area as well as ICU. So those areas were up a little bit. Surgeries, you can see, were down. That was typical for a COVID year, particularly during the height of it. Probably last summer would have been the bigger areas when those surgeries would be down. Births. We did experience more births this year, again, COVID year, and that's been kind of a nationwide trend with the lockdowns and such. Emergency visits were down from last year about 8.2%. To give you a little bit of insight on emergency visits, we do have our physicians are contracted, and in that contract, the higher the volume, the cheaper our contract is. Feels a little bit weird, but because they're able to bill for their components, so it reduces the amount. So the difference here, which was about 1,000 ER visits, cost us several $100,000 more in our contract. So just as a side note there. Outpatient diagnostic visits, those were up. You would think about the laboratory and imaging and those sort of areas. Lab clearly was going to be up. Clinic visits, those were down 18.5. This is different from the rural health clinic visits. So the clinic visits would be the orthopedics in the surgery, which is structured differently structured differently and billed a little differently. So they were down, but the rural health clinics were also down by about 2%. We did add Dr. Corey's practice in the month of April, which did improve it a little bit, but so there's only 1 month in there. Next page, wound care procedures, did want to point that out. You can see we've had 180 for the last 2 months, so. I'm going to push back to the page 4. It's going to say operating performance summary. And again, focusing on the fiscal year to date, you can see that our gross patient revenues were 110 million versus 96 last year. But if you look into the details on that a little bit, you can see the impact for our inpatient revenue. It's up 30, almost 31%. Now, we did look at the admissions that were up just slightly. However, the patients that we had this year were much more severe, as you would expect with COVID. So there would be sicker individuals and it would be longer stays, more charges associated with that. So that drives the revenue up. We did have more outpatient revenue as well. Again, you have lab that was up, diagnostic areas. Total deductions, we were up about 16.8%. That would be expected if your revenue was up. Tax subsidies in there. Our other revenue, this is the area that will be scrutinized in our audit, and everyone's would be. This has our COVID related dollars in it. So you can see the 6.9 versus 2.3. Now that's not everything we received. We do track items that we potentially could pay back on our balance sheet. So these are the items that we have utilized and put into the income side of things. So it is up a little bit on this side. Net operating revenue, almost 40.5 million versus 33, up 22%. But then again, our expenses would also be up, and you can see 43 million for the year compared to 37 last year. The bottom line on that one, the 4.3 million, is going to have a lot of COVID related dollars associated with it. So salaries and wages were up, as well as our professional fees and some areas there that were up as well. The operating margin for the year, 3.1 versus just almost 4.1 last year. So about $1 million, as Frank mentioned earlier. Total net margin, you can see that there. And the EBITDA, or the earnings before interest and depreciation and amortization, was a negative 691 compared to 1,394 last year. So some improvements there. I'm going to dig back further in the report now. It's going to be page 12. So much of this is statistics or trends and things, but we're going to go all the way back to the balance sheet so that you can see what we have here. In the highlighted area here is days cash on hand. It's at 42. You can see that last year end we were at 70, but last year end we were just getting those funds. We were a little bit higher last month as well. So there are some things that are impacting our cash flow. One is the going forward is the pass-through payments. The other one is, and actually, let's see, do I want to cover that now? Or, yeah, let's go ahead and cover that now. This other sheet right here that I handed out as well. So you can see on this, and it starts with that Medicare accelerated payments. The intent of that program was just to basically get cash into the healthcare facilities, and they're advance paying for services that were to come. And then at some point it was that we would have to pay those dollars back. And you can see that we've paid, we're at the very early stages. It started in April, almost $215,000. So last month alone, we had 140,000. That would be May. So when you start thinking about the pass-through payments that we're not getting, which is about 200, and then you have an additional 140 going, and you can see what that does to our cash flow. So that's a little bit of a stress right now. We do also have the SBA, Small Business Association Forgivable Loans, also known as the Payment Protection Program. We did receive multiple funds to the total of $6 million. We've applied for forgiveness for all but $2 million. The $2 million, we are not ready to apply for that one yet. And we just haven't received the notification that that's been forgiven yet. I know that smaller organizations, churches, and smaller businesses have gotten those letters. So we just haven't, therefore it's not in the revenue because we don't have that letter. The CARES Act, the provider relief funds, we've received a significant amount here now. Any excess in this is subject to payback. So this is the area that we talk about lost revenues, and you can see that we have better revenues, so that doesn't really apply to us in too much. It does to some degree, because there's other methods in which you can calculate that, as well as expenses. So the supply expenses or the time. Included in this, we did include the roof, but that's in a really gray area. We may get denied on that one. So at this point, we've recognized a number of dollars, but there's still more work to be done on this. We're going through additional areas and items that we've already expended to see, okay, can we justify or find an argument to where we can keep some of those dollars? So that's one area. We do have some other grants in here as well that we were able to utilize. The payroll tax deferral, that's another program that basically we didn't have to pay we calculated, but we didn't have to pay our payroll taxes for a time. We just got notification, I think in the last 2 weeks, that we will end up paying all the employees' portion as well as half of the employer's portion by the end of this year. And then the remaining employer portion by the end of next year. Sparks grants that went to operations, and then we have a couple of other smaller items here that are also subject to payback. But this is kind of a work in progress. I know with the CARES Act, there is a timing issue on that, and we're hoping for that to get pushed back, but the CARES Act funds are supposed to be expended by the end of June. So they would have to be fully expended at that point. There is some discussion of whether or not that's going to get moved back to the end of the year. We don't know. So we're just preparing for that coming up as well. So when we were looking at the balance sheet, we had about $6 million in cash. So it's really to our benefit if we can protect as much of that going back. But that's still subject to how CMS or Medicare views our justification. So.
And with the CARES Act funds, you guys can't use that money towards the generator, what is that?
Well, I mean, you can always apply for it, but it would be a really gray area because the intent of that was for items that are directly COVID related, so to speak. So the fact that the generators started and that wasn't because of COVID, that was a routine operational thing that we've been doing, or we should be doing every week for years. It's something we test those generators. That's not, I mean, if we don't have it, we can't treat a patient. I understand that, but it's not really, my guess is CMS would deny it. But who knows? We can always try.
Have you looked at the guidelines for the American Rescue monies? The way I look at it, I think that we can use that money towards maintenance of the hospital.
Yeah.
It appears so, yeah.
Yeah.
I've looked at it a few times and it's, there's a lot more gray than the previous stuff,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
I think the boilers.
Mhm.
That's infrastructure.
Yeah, well, we should have been taking care of that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just,
Mhm.
I feel like COVID hit, you guys never put your lights off. You never stop operating. And so when you see that, that's weird. Sorry,
I know, I feel the same way.
it's a head scratcher.
Yeah, other things we bought, ventilators and oxygen stuff, that's all direct and we can apply that. Loss of any revenues, time put in place to get ready, prepare and test and lab and all that stuff applies. And yeah, we could spend it and pay for the roof and pay for a generator and then apply it and it may or may not, then you may have to pay it back at the end. So is it judicial to do that or not? That's
How long does that take to kind of either not get approval or
for,
or when you apply for something?
Yeah.
Like, let's just say, You had an example, I'm trying to think what it was. Anyway, you said
Right,
it's a gray area, but it still applies.
so the portal's not even open yet, so they haven't even built it, so that's part of why we're hoping that the expense of the funds can be pushed back as well. So we don't even know what
I
the
got it.
questions are gonna be at this point.
Mhm.
So, but that's kind of routine with CMS to some degree. Oftentimes they'll set deadlines and they'll get moved back until they finally get it, where it's,
They put out what we call a final rule,
Mhm.
and then when that comes out, then that's the bottom line.
And you're probably not the only ones.
No,
Asking that question.
no, it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Wade, can you, because I knew I couldn't explain it, but I did talk to them about, we had mentioned at the meeting about refinancing the bond. And
right. So there were some issues, actually, I think that's all my notes with me.
Okay, good. I saw you had that little notebook, so.
So we did have another conversation. Let me just find this real quick, so. There we go, with Kevin. So there were some issues or some thought processes with that at least that's what we were looking for, was what options were there. I know with the larger county option, there's a timing as well as a taxability issue there. There's a callability, and I don't think they're in the window yet. They're not callable yet. And so if something was to be done now, then it would change the taxability for it. So there may be, if there's a tax law change or something like that, that could make it more viable. But it's kind of a back burner item. Some refinancing, there's some things that we could do potentially for the facility expenses. You can kind of say, okay, well, how much do we spend and issue a new one? The other parts with those public funds is for capital improvements, that's kind of what that was. There would be an amendment for the supplemental lease. There's a bond issue, and there's also a number of registered voters that have to be part of a vote to, once the intent has been published, and there's a 30-day protest period, and then you need 5% registered voters. You could put together a new resolution, that's a 60-day protest, and then the lesser of 2% voters or 100 electors. So there was, he was really looking not so much at the bigger bond and those on that front, so.
Yeah, no, the bottom line I had, he said, he really wouldn't be ready to even look at that till like 24 to 27
Okay.
from the timing standpoint. And then he did look at the smaller bonds that we have. He said, not refinancing, but refinancing a payment or moving one payment, like the next payment to the end of the cycle. There's process to do that if that's what you choose to do.
Are you, I.
It's like about $250,000.
That's it. Is it?
That's what the,
250,000.
yeah,
It moves the principal payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just
back.
keeps, and there's some tax pieces to that.
Mhm.
So then you'd be taxable.
And so it might be worth
It
it.
didn't feel like it was worth it to do that piece of it. Unless we got to where there was no other options.
Yeah. Wait, in the year, what?
Other than that, how's business been going?
Well, it's been picking up the last month. The volumes are a little bit better. Clinic volumes seem to have picked up, but we added Dr. Corey, so we watched the trend. So I know next month, when we finish out June, I would look to see if the clinic volumes have actually picked up. My provider, that's how I tell. But ER's been a little bit busier, so that feels like kind of back to normal. Last month in end of May, we had around a little bit over 1,000 page visits, which is the first time we broke 1,000 in like 7 or 8 months. So that's coming back. Alpha Care, we're extending hours. That'll be coming up shortly to coincide with the urgent care that's coming. So we'll have those extended hours.
We did also challenge that electric bill. I think I told you guys it was like
The gas bill.
30, again, excuse me, gas bill, 130,000. So we did challenge that, offered up a payment to satisfy, and we're still working through that to make sure that that's gonna work. So hopefully that'll be a positive and then we don't have to spend as much.
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of individuals and other entities going, challenging
Challenge.
Mhm.
their bills, so.
Yeah, the biggest thing I could say about, if you look at last year, we had about the same amount of inpatient visits, inpatient days, but we generated a lot more revenue because they were sicker. If you look at, we call the case mix index, and that was all the COVID patients that were taken care of. I think we had about 80 of them, maybe a little bit more now, 80, 90 patients that we took care of. So that helped generate the revenue, and that was the ICU and having all those services available.
Did you bring your list of accomplishments?
Oh, gosh, no, I didn't.
Oh,
No.
well, I didn't bring it to them, you know, because
Oh, you
I
want me
knew
to
you guys
tote?
were gonna do it, so I'll bring it to them like Monday then.
Okay,
I'll bring it
let's see what I can
Monday.
think about. Well, wound care
Yeah,
has 180 visits, 340B generating revenue. We were a leapfrog safety grade A, only one in the region. Then you got to go to Kansas City to get another grade A for second year in a row. That's hard.
yeah, that's awesome.
Quality scores improved. Our patient satisfaction went from a 3-star to a 4-star. So patients are satisfied at the hospital. So those are just some of the highlights, the revenue.
Mhm.
I think, you know, just the morale seems a lot better what I hear, because I only know from when I was here, but
Yeah.
prior years seems like it's better.
Yeah.
You,
I walk the halls.
so
It's way better around
that
here.
seems
so.
better.
I think
We
so.
added an intensivist that really made it. We had a teleneurology and psych, which is starting to really take off now.
Nice.
So those things are moving along. We've added several contracts to try and make it more like a regular hospital. This hospital was like stuck about 20 years ago. That's the way it was operating. And we're trying to get it up to speed. We still have a paper chart in the clinics we need to get rid of and get to an electronic system. So we're working through those issues. We've got a lot going on, and our business plan, I can present maybe next time, the small highlighted version, just so you can see, is basically about driving and building more revenue, because that's what you need.
Yeah.
Um,
I know you and I talked about doing some town halls. Probably wait till.
Yeah,
after-
so let
after
me present
some-
that to you
Yeah.
and then see what you think, if we need
Yeah.
to tweak or add, and,
Mhm.
but that's the strategy, is to grow revenue.
Yeah.
I can tell you, Frank, from the outside looking in, if I didn't know what was happening, I wouldn't know what was happening. You guys gotta be boisterous about I mean, you accomplished a lot.
Mm.
And
You
people need to
and
know.
People need to know that stuff. It's the same thing I think I was telling Craig last week. Is, like, don't be too proud to,
Mhm.
you know, pat yourself on the back and
Mhm.
get out there and say, we've done this.
And that's something we could present at town halls, the
Yeah.
business plan, the
Exactly.
accomplishments, and kind of like this, like where we are today. Just.
Yeah, where we are and where we'd like to be.
I can tell you, when I was an employee and hearing that the doors was gonna close in 2 days,
It's scary.
you
2
walked
days
around the
passed, yeah.
hospital and nobody said hi to anybody. I think you can speak to that in your first couple of weeks there.
My first guy, people were crying.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, literally,
Yeah.
go talk to them, they just start crying because they don't know what to do.
Scary.
going from 2 days to having a week, I mean, like, and just seeing the change in mentality. Like people actually showing up to work and being proud of being at work. And so, you know, you gotta capitalize on that. You gotta put that out there in the streets, so to say. For everybody to see what's going on, see that you guys are working your tails off, so. I appreciate it.
Thank
Yep, me
you.
too.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
How's the cattle business?
They're drowning.
Got too many cows, need to get rid of?
Just all the rain we had.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had some rain.
Crazy, yeah.
For the week, it was like a 2 week stretch. It seemed like it was raining and gloomy.
Yeah, it
Definitely.
Like you wanted to sit on the couch with a blanket.
Yeah.
was, yeah. Take a nap.
Oh, thanks, Frank.
Yeah,
guys.
thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You guys have a great rest of the week. Probably see y'all.
Yeah, we're going to Liberal for our first, mission.
Oh, good. Have fun. People are starting to get out more. Vendors are starting to come by more.
Yeah,
Things
people are
to
starting to
reach
get
them
out
out.
more.
That's a good thing.
It is, it is.
Those nice ones, vendors can be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, they can.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
something.
we kind of missed them for a
Yeah.
little bit.
Let's get a stand back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good day. See you later. Yep.
Who's next? So now, put this on. If anyone's asking, it's all gonna be, I'm gonna have it part 1, part 2, so and so. Since I had to break it,
Okay.
like meeting 6/7/2021.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And you guys haven't subscribed to the page. What the heck?
I have.
You go on YouTube, after you log in,
Yeah.
you subscribe.
You gotta put a password in.
If you don't have a account,
Passwords.
or you don't have to have an account.
Oh, you don't.
Then how do
You
you?
don't have to have an account.
I just
No,
pull
I
it
thought you
up.
did.
You just pull it up. We got a few subscribers.
Wow. Cool.
Man, that thing threw me off today. We should have been live.
We should have been live.
You're really taking this hard.
Huh?
You're taking this hard.
Well, I don't want people to be upset and feel like trying to hide stuff. I want them to, have access. Last week. Are you guys gonna come go through Juneteenth?
Yeah, I am.
I'm not, because we got a family reunion in summer.
Okay.
I'd rather go to GT.
You better watch out, there might be
I was told that.
I think they were talking about a family reunion in Vegas. And I told my mom, well, my mom's trying to move the dates. Oh, they're in the team. She went back. Well,
We had them in Tulsa and what I consider most of them. In Stone.
yeah, man, I don't think we were supposed to have a multi-family garage there. I don't think we have it. They go down and walk around, take the boys. Crystal sent that information. who would be in charge of putting them on the doors?
They're already,
They are,
okay. She must have been in the house. But at least there's one on Diane's door.
is one right here,
There's one on her door.
there's one back here on this
I
one.
don't,
Okay. I'll look before I leave one. I need to throw them up on the doors. You get a real ID. Start traveling this summer.
oh, yeah. I still don't do that too.
Do you have a real ID yet?
Yeah, I had one for like 2 years ago. Yeah, realigned.
What time you leaving?
I may go in and work and do some things, you know. Oh, no. I think I did. Accidentally pushed the button.
Oh,
It didn't like go all the way. Sound good, right?
While we're here, get guns blazing.
Nah, they might take their time.
sirens go on. Oh, man.
Yes,
This one's faster.
yes. Like you, man, that's just, you got all that money and think like legitimate things for you that you need.
Well, they
So
were already in trouble before COVID, and then
Yeah.
COVID hit. And every rural
Well, and
hospital is struggling.
but I feel like after COVID hit, you were working, I mean, like you're feet on the ground a little bit more than you.
It's almost
Yeah, but
like-
Medicare or Medicaid still is not paying what, and we have an indigent care. I mean, we're behind the 8 ball before COVID even
And
hit.
I'm just talking about equipment, I guess.
Well, that, we should have been checking on.
It just doesn't make sense. You can't use building times to take care of it. You gotta have building.
Like you gotta sterilize stuff, you need energy to keep your COVID shots cold. I mean, like,
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like there's a lot of things that you need in terms of COVID.
As long as you build it in.
Yeah. I'm not saying going out and buy a vehicle. You know,
T-shirts.
yeah.
You're ready whenever you are, ma'am.
Okay, I'm just trying to find something here. Okay. Have this one change.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve change order 2020-206.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those same sign, motion carries.
Okay, now for the minutes of 6/1. Trish and Alex are good with the minutes. Keith, During the commissioner review and update, one of the bullets said that Chairman Giordano said the county has not done anything extra in the hospital to help them out. Commissioner Ashford said yes. County has, they issued notified warrants and give the hospital tax money. Keith wants me to add, and they've got spark money. And then, under human resources, he wanted me to put in, we were talking about the county council position. Crystal stated she would like to do her own research regarding the county council position. So I added that. And that's it.
I didn't see any. They're in the poll.
Hey,
I went back and looked at these.
and, oh, what? Keith,
I trust you.
thank you.
I
Okay.
mean, I was scared he was one of my teachers in high school, man. It's like,
No.
golly, give me a break.
That was my weakness. Make a note. I make a motion to pull these.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, Tricia, you got to print them, then you can sign.
Oh, okay.
And got that done then.
Since it's music. And cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, that thing.
But the heat started going, like, it started getting hot. At first it was kind of like nice, then it started getting humid, a little bit drier. So
Miles you did in that truck.
standard, I mean, crappy city, crappy, like 24 on the highway, or 30 on the highway. Standard city. But I filled my tank up before we left to go to Lincoln. We left to Lincoln Friday at baseball, that night, Saturday and Sunday, and I drove back to the same. I mean,
It must hold a long time.
yeah, I think it's 30 gallon, I think. But you know, if you're ever in Kansas City, and you need to fill up, make sure you fill up there. Cheaper.
Cheaper.
When we were out there, it was $2.59 a gallon. I think it might have been cheaper in Lincoln, not as cheap as Kansas City, but cheaper here. Get some of the dogs this weekend. For my mom. But- Yeah. I don't know. Oh, my. Did you eat lunch?
Just ran goes in.
Where you going? Gillian. Can like a big report. So are we getting a big report?
She's just making copies so I can sign them.
Um,
I think she might be done now, I'm not sure.
So I get an email this past week from the hotel that we stayed at when we went to AUSA in the past.
Mhm.
And there must be a third because the third night's for. Oh.
So they're just trying to get people.
First two nights and the third night's for.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know. But
Well, I think they're just trying to get people out.
Trying to be competitive.
that's quite a chunk.
Uh-oh.
Did you have anything other stuff? So,
No, that's it.
right, well, it looks like we're done with business today. Let's call us adjourned.
Did the owl, did it talk to you when you came back?
Who?
The owl?
Who?
The owl.
Oh, no.
I didn't guess that.
Yeah, I
Good one.
Oh, that's pretty.
You said we're adjourned?
Yes.
You have to. No.
We're adjourned.
Oh, that's perfect.
Mhm.